Welcome to the Project, the podcast with the mission to cover every project throughout pop culture and history. I'm Sam.
And I'm Lewis.
And this week we watched the third episode of Project Icon.
Yeah, I bet that's a shocker for all the listeners what we're doing this week.
And they've also seen the title of the episode as well, haven't they? But
We're now halfway through the series.
Yeah, I know. It's gone so quickly, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's a short series to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very much enjoying it still, but I was also like, oh, it'd be nice to watch a film at some point, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think we'll have to have something completely different in a few weeks' time.
Yeah,
but I am still thoroughly
I think we should watch
this.
another musical TV show. We'll find another one.
God.
Project Pop Idol.
Project Pop Idol or the X Factor Project.
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, we have got time codes in the episode description. So if you want to skip straight to our Project Icon episode 3 post-show discussion / recap / predictions / all the goss. We don't have any goss, but yeah, all the goss, all that sort of thing, you can skip straight ahead. We've also got some chat about the latest episode of The Mandalorian.
We do.
Although at time of release, there will be another episode out. So
no, it comes out on Wednesdays.
Yeah. And this is Tuesday today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So by the time this comes out, there'll be a new episode of The Mandalorian.
Only later on that day.
Yeah. I think it comes out in the morning.
Does it?
Anyway, but yeah, so yeah, you can skip straight ahead, skip past all this bit where we're trying to figure out what we're talking about this week. But before any of that, how are you today, Lewis?
Yeah, I'm all right. We've it's been Easter bank holiday weekend, so it's been a long weekend that just makes you feel even more tired than before.
Yeah, it's some of the most time that we all tend to get off at once, isn't it? Did a bit of family stuff, both of us, didn't we?
We did, not together, but
the PP family.
The PP family. Yeah, but yeah, I'm just feeling a bit tired today, and I was like, I got home because I'd been away for the weekend. Got home yesterday, and I was like, right, I've got to watch Project Icon, and I was like trying to rev myself up for it, and I was like, and once it got going, I was like,
as soon as it starts, you're like, damn.
Yeah, but yeah, just feeling a bit exhausted. How about yourself?
Yeah, pretty much the same. Yeah, I wasn't away, but yeah, a busy, chill weekend. So didn't do masses, but didn't really kind of rest or recoup as much as I'd like to. But hey, I can't really complain, can we?
No.
One thing that did happen over the weekend, we won't go into too much detail because we're not a Star Wars podcast as much as we'd like to be in lots of ways.
We cover a lot of Star Wars.
Star Wars Celebration was over the weekend.
It was.
There was all sorts of stuff. I asked you quickly before recording what you'd seen. You mentioned, which one did you mention?
The film that's being made that was like a biblical force thing.
James Mangold.
Mangold,
Who did Logan and is doing the upcoming Indiana Jones 5.
Which I've kind of got, and I've seen similarly mixed feelings about, because on one hand that sounds really cool, be cool to see the origins. On the other hand, like, is it better left as a mystery kind of thing?
I think if it's like thousands of years before what we've seen,
I think it's like 25,000 years before
right?
New
Okay,
Hope.
yeah.
So
that's fun because it's like it's a whole weird world of like probably quite basic shit.
Yeah,
like biblical times, basic shit, you know.
That's what the Bible was all about, basic shit.
And Dave Filoni, who everyone will know from doing the Clone Wars, doing the Mandalorian, he's the people's Star Wars man, isn't he?
He is.
He wears a cowboy hat and he's friends with Jon Favreau, and James as well, his brother,
and George Lucas.
Yeah. He's doing a film which is supposed to be the culmination of the Mandalorian vibe stuff. So I think we mentioned either on or off pod a few weeks ago that he said in an interview that although canonically there's no big event in that period, this will be the big event kind of thing. So it's an unknown thing. It's probably tying into some of the Ahsoka stuff, which we can talk about in a sec as
you can do big event without being like universe big, like the Skywalker saga.
Exactly, yeah. So that'll be fun. And then one of the people who worked on Ms. Marvel, who I have their name here because I didn't write it down, and I'm padding for time as I scroll up here. Sharmeen Obed-Chinoy, who is one of the people who worked on Ms. Marvel, is directing a film set 15 years after the rise of Skywalker.
Yes.
With Daisy Ridley coming back.
With Daisy Ridley, which very exciting.
Yeah.
think Daisy Ridley was great.
Yeah, she was kind of undersold in a lot of those, and people have a lot of unnecessary hate for that character.
Yeah, but I think she was great.
Yeah, I've seen like people are a little bit confused about the 15 years thing because she won't have aged 15 years. But I guess it's just like you're a bit magic and you don't really look as old as you do.
Yeah,
and they probably won't start filming it for 6 years anyway. So
yeah, exactly. It's fine.
So that's fine, and that might be the start of a new trilogy, depending on how they decide to categorize it. And
I'd be quite happy if them just do a bunch of standalones.
Yeah,
though.
I think so. Yeah, I think they said something like it starts with her Jedi Order in disarray. So it's like fucking hell, nobody can keep these fuckers under control for more than 15 years. But yeah, that's fun. Then there was some stuff about the Acolyte, which the creator of that has mentioned it's a combination of Frozen and Kill Bill was their pitch to Lucasfilm. So I don't know exactly what that is, but that's like a kind of, I think that's a Sith situation or something. It's supposed to have quite a lot of martial arts in it, so I think that's where the Kill Bill stuff comes in. Then we got Ahsoka stuff. So there was a trailer which I didn't watch. But there was lots of casting in that trailer. I don't know if you've heard much about this.
I saw that Thrawn has been cast.
Yep, same guy, Lars Mikkelsen. So that's good.
Which good. And like his voice worked really well in Rebels and painting blue, and he's got the look as well.
He's a thin guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
And the rest of that crew have all been cast as well. So we saw the hairy Chewbacca-esque guy in the recent episode of Mandalorian. I imagine he'll turn up as well.
Zeb,
yeah, he's a hairy guy.
Do you know that he's based on the original concept designs for Chewbacca?
Yeah. So Mary Elizabeth Winstead is going to be playing Sabula Galula.
Hera Syndulla.
That's it, yeah. Until I don't have any information.
Yep, who's also from Rebels.
That's right. And Sabine has been cast. I didn't write down her name. It was Natalie something. And the guy who plays Ezra as well. He was on a little hologram apparently in the thing. So
yeah,
all good stuff.
Cool, bringing the whole gang back together.
It basically means that after all these months of procrastinating, I probably will end up finishing Rebels before the summer. So
good.
There we go.
It's good, particularly towards the end.
Yeah, and I was about halfway through anyway, so hopefully I'm definitely not going to rewatch all of that. I'll start from somewhere in the middle. And there was a trailer for Star Wars Visions Season 2, which I skimmed through and looks fantastic. Looks really good.
I felt season 1 was a bit hit and miss. There's some stuff I really liked, and some was just a bit too stylized and silly and didn't seem to work in the Star Wars universe for me. But overall, I'm like, it's non-canon stuff anyway, so they can do what they want. Yeah. So I'll be up for season 2.
I think the Aardman one is some sort of pod racing-y style thing, which is it makes sense. They're cute little people.
I hope there's like a Wallace and Gromit reference or something in there.
Probably like some spaceships that are shaped like them in the background or something fun like that. Or some droids, that would make sense. A little pair of droids.
A little pair of droids that look like them. Maybe with like the green sweater vest.
yeah. But yeah, I don't have too much else. But it's I wasn't expecting Star Wars Celebration to come up. I don't put it in my calendar like some people.
No.
But it was nice to kind of wake up one morning and go, hey, there's a load of new Star Wars films.
Yeah.
And apparently the Taika Waititi one you mentioned a few weeks ago still in the works, and also the Rian Johnson, is it Rian Johnson? Yeah, Rian Johnson trilogy is apparently still there. He's just busy probably doing Knives Out 3 before then, so
he's got a lot on his plate.
I thought you were going to do a pun there.
No, I forgot.
A lot on his Johnson there.
Oh no.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's all I've got for that. So what other than that little chat at the start, what's the first juicy old segment there, Lewis?
Oh, you mean Project News. I always forget that one of them's like really long, and I don't know until I press it.
I think one of them's about a minute, isn't it? So.
Well, there is like a minute ones, and there's just like 6 stingers that I kind of randomly select, but that's the long one. But Project News, as always, I've googled the word project and had a look at what came up. And this is one of our most popular pieces of Project News.
Oh, God. What is it?
Oh, no. It's just more stuff about the Lazarus Project.
Oh, okay. There's going to be environmental news. Everyone's favourite.
Done that in a while. So TNT sets premiere date for long-delayed acquired drama series, The Lazarus Project.
Ooh.
So obviously we covered that every episode last year. They're filming season 2 at the moment, but last year TNT acquired the rights to show it in America.
That's right. Yeah,
it was originally meant to be shown in January, got pushed back because they were restructuring a load of stuff. But it has now got a release date, which is the first. Where's it gone? It was the 1st of June here. 4th of June.
Okay, so almost a full year after it came out here.
Yeah, 4th of June it will show in America. So hopefully our American listeners can watch that and then go back and listen to our episode.
Yeah, I was actually going to do a little tweet when that came out, so I'm glad I didn't because I would have been completely wrong.
Yeah, but that's only a couple of months away. And I imagine they'll delay season 2 being shown until after that.
Yeah, or they might have timed that release for when it's 8 weeks later. That's when the new one comes out or something like that. Or have it tiered so it comes out a bit earlier here or whatever. But it means probably season 2 won't be before then, basically.
Which is good.
Which is good, yeah. It's good for us.
For our schedule. But yeah, it's exciting that it's finally getting shown in America. We were huge fans of that show, and I do urge everyone to watch it where you can. In the UK, it's on Now TV.
It is,
It was Sky. So check it out. We're looking forward to season 2. We have spoken about the Lazarus Project a lot in the last year.
Yeah. Other than, well, it'll be even more than Project Icon by the end, unless we cover a second season of this as well, because there was more episodes of that. That's just the way it works.
And it came up in Project News a lot over the last year with filming and confirmation and dates and stuff. But so yeah, it's good to finally get a confirmed date for our American friends of the 4th of June. But that's all I've got for Project News this week, which means we can go straight into Project Icon.
Episode 3.
So if you haven't listened to our previous 2 episodes, be weird coming at this point, but you do you.
No judgment.
To summarise, it's a music talent show by Jason Derulo, where it's not a normal show. He's got 10 people and they got all sorts of different challenges. We had them do 90 seconds of their own song, then they made a TikTok, and then last week they had to do a collab where they were in groups of 4 and they had to perform together. And we're down to 6 people going into this episode, and they were told they're going to have to make a remix.
Yes, that's right. Of each other's signature tracks.
Yes. And since the beginning, we divided the contestants between us. Going into this episode, you had Mia, Nenna, and Okeem, and I had Dylan, Emelle, and Barry. I think last week we said that you probably had the better 3 based on what we'd seen.
What we'd seen at that point, yes. And
even things change every week.
They do. And one thing to note on that as well is that we said quite often, there's a couple of people, I'd say Emelle and Barry off the top of my head, that we hadn't seen a lot of them actually performing because of the way the edit happened. And the way that this worked, because it was based on their signature songs from that first episode, we actually got to see some of the performance that we hadn't seen before, which was very interesting to know that those performances aren't in the past and they will be kind of shown to us again. I thought that was very refreshing. I think
because all of them were performing a song, it meant that we actually got to see them perform all of them again, whereas last week it was kind of they focused on different people. So it was quite nice to see everyone. And some people were really good and some people struggled.
And as with a lot of these episodes, there is kind of a star of each episode in lots of ways. And I feel like based on the both entertainment and the kind of reactions, I feel like Emelle was 100% the star of this episode.
Yeah, well, there's it's been kind of the last couple of weeks when they do like their side talking head comments. Emelle likes to say some shit.
She's had some stuff. There was the put your mask airplane on first or whatever.
Yeah, you put your mask plane on.
Your mask on.
It just seems to be pumping up and she's getting more and more brutal.
It was snap every single time. I've seen she posts a couple of TikToks and stuff afterwards like, I'm not bitchy, and then it's like shows all her bitchy moments kind of thing. And I feel like this episode must have even more than ever.
Well, now Charlie's gone, she's got nothing to hold her back.
And there's a little bitchy comment about that, isn't there?
But we start with the classic Jordan Norths talking to them, how you're feeling. Classic Jordan North. And they're all feeling a bit more pressure before, I think because there's only 6 of them now, it's a bit more competitive. And And we also hear that Becky is away again because she barely turns up.
I think they compensate by showing her on like doing a talking head quite often in the first half of this. I'm like, what's the schedule like for this? Why? She was on tour.
Yeah.
So
why have they got someone who's on tour to? Yeah, but well. I quite like Becky Hill on this. She's quite fun.
Although I do find that like her reactions are very hard to predict because half the time she's like, "Wow, you're so lovely," and then she's like, "No, that was awful, terrible." I'm like, whoa, it's really flip flopping.
I think on this episode as well, I think a couple of the contestants called out Frank's like mash of the fact, no emotion statements because it is quite enjoyable. But yeah, they get told they're going to remix each other's songs. They're going to take another person that they've been partnered with, take their signature song that they sang at the beginning, and do like a cover of it. They're going to go to a studio. Do it
with producers,
although we never actually hear that version, and then they'll perform it live.
So it's like they call it a remix, but it is kind of like a cover / it's like a good cover where they change the style, they change the tempo, they add. It's a completely new recorded version.
They're essentially in the studio with the producers to work on how they want it to sound.
And one of the things they kind of highlight in this, the judges do, is they want them to put their unique kind of fingerprint on it as an artist. They don't want them to do like a traditional cover that may just be in their own voice with different instruments. They want to change it up. They have the help of the professional studio and the producers. They're named producers. I'd heard a couple of the tracks they mentioned, but not all of them. Kind of thing. So they're obviously ones that are in the zeitgeist. And it's a combination of how they work in the studio and how kind of well they can adapt someone else's material.
Which is quite interesting. So they're partnered up to cover each other's songs, and it's Dylan and Mia who are partnered up. Akeem and Emelle, and then Nena and Barry.
Yes.
So they're interesting because like Dylan's more of like the indie guy, and Mia's got the great voice, but more like dancey stuff. Akeem and Emelle seem completely juxtaposed genres. And then Nena and Barry both like focus on the power of their voice kind of
I think
thing.
there's even a comment about powerhouse vocalists. I can't remember who it was who says it, but it's interesting. I suppose you can't match everyone up, either opposites or the same. So
but it means you've got a nice mix of not just opposites and not just the same.
And the thing they say before is, if your track is whack, one of you is getting dropped. I was kind of hoping for like, you won't be coming back.
The first half of this episode, every sentence Frank said rhymed. Everyone. Like
he's leaned into being a Batman villain, isn't he? And he is very funny. I think he's probably the most entertaining judge, isn't he?
Yeah, at first I was just kind of like, this guy's brutal, but I'm really kind of coming around to him because he's just fun.
And it's just his facial reactions as well, where he's just like completely deadpan, and his eyes are looking confused, and he's looking around, he's going, is anyone else hearing what I'm hearing? Like, this is terrible. What am I thinking?
But the first pairing we see is Akeem and Emelle, and they've got the producers who were best known for doing the Wellerman song that was huge last year.
They're called Bill and Ted.
Which I presume is a reference, but they never mention it. So first it's Emelle. She's given Akeem's song, and she kind of like, I can see a lot of potential in this, and kind of making it my own. And Frank's kind of talking about how Emelle is a country singer, and kind of compares her to how Taylor Swift was. And I was like, that's a bold comparison.
It's also like high standards as well.
It's like, oh, Emelle, you could just be like the biggest pop star in the world.
But it's interesting in terms of like, if you're not a big Swiftie, then you probably, I was going to say Swifthead, but I'm pretty sure it is Swiftie, isn't it? If you're not a big Swifthead, then you might not even really like associate her with country music, but she had a good number of albums that were leaning into that, and some of her more kind of ballady stuff still can kind of touch on those roots.
Love Story is probably still my favorite Taylor Swift song, and that's very country.
Exactly. So the idea is making it kind of commercially viable, and also looking at her potential to kind of change genres, which is something we've mentioned from the start, and how viable that kind of thing is. And there's what is it? I feel like when they first started she has this whole thing and she's talking about country, and then Frank's talking about country, and then we hear the first snippet of what she's working on. I'm like, this doesn't sound like country at all. And I think she's saying like they're talking about like having this like funky beat under it and stuff, and I'm like, that something's been lost in the edit there. I don't know if that's intentionally like juxtaposed, but
I feel like it's more like country influences than actual country.
Yeah, like I guess the country vocals that she's used to over a more kind of
maybe it's
track,
because she's covering like an R&B track. It doesn't make sense to make it pure country.
Yeah,
and also in the UK, pure country isn't that commercially successful, so she's got to adapt a bit.
I think that's it.
We then get Barry and Nenna, whose producers did a KSI track.
Yeah, I didn't write down the name of this one, unfortunately.
I knew it was KSI, and I was like, cool, cool, that guy.
Yeah.
And Barry wants to like do like glam pop, and I was like, that makes sense. Like that suits his style. Like
he's got a very glam outfit on. It's
always
it's kind of pink Austin Powers outfit in the first half of this.
Always got his makeup going.
yeah.
And he listens to this. He wants like a quicker tempo, but a tempo. What did I say? Tempo. I was reading ahead of my notes.
Yeah.
And this is the bit where we first see, we kind of get a lot in this episode where Nenna is a bit unsure about Barry's comments because they're sitting in the studio while the other person's like, I'm going to change this, I'm going to change this. And she's
very
like,
awkward,
because they all like wrote these songs like at home.
Yeah.
She's quite protective of her song, and she's like,
I guess that
I'm not sure.
That's part of the whole test, is how you react to sitting there with somebody like, you know, surgically taking apart your baby effectively in the most least gross way possible.
Barry's very confident. He calls himself a genius.
It is so funny when the producer's like, some people might say Barry's overbearing, and they'd be right, but I love him.
Yeah. And I was like, I think that's a very fair assessment on everyone's view on Barry, apart from maybe Sizel.
Just the first part there, really.
And then we get a little bit from Jason here where he talks about how they're going to need to balance with putting their own stance on the songs, but also let the producers take control, because these guys are professionals. They know what's best. If they suggest something, they probably know what they're talking about. So it's kind of, Barry's more on the end of, I'll do it myself. We get some other people who are on the other end who just let the producers do
that's
everything.
what happens here next with Mia, because she's with Goldfingers, who they did a Charlie XCX song. And she's remixing Dylan's song from the first episode. Which was one of the reasons why he was seen as the front runner. It's a very
great
strong
song. It's a great performance.
Strong song, good performance. But it's really funny because there's a scene where and where they're saying to Mia, so what do you like about this? And she goes, oh yeah, I really like that. And the producers are just looking at each other like, we need more feedback here. And there's a little talking head.
A bit of them, where they're like, we have suggestions, but we want to hear what these artists want to do as well. They can't just say
it's a collaborative process. It's not.
Whereas me is just everything's just like
But she does go on to say, you know, as the youngest of the group and not having as much experience in certain parts as other people, she did feel very kind of not lost. I don't think is her words, but maybe a bit overwhelmed by the situation. I think.
Yeah, and she mentions as well when she was young, she had a lisp.
Yeah.
And Dylan's songs have lots of S's and T's in there. And like it really knocked her confidence as a kid. So she's struggling a bit.
And we see a scene where she's, we should see a little clip where she's doing some of the vocals in the booth, and she stumbles over it and she's like, oh, hang on.
Yeah, a bit of foreshadowing there.
Foreshadowing. It's like they put that bit there on purpose there.
Yeah, we get a little bit here with Nenna, Dylan and Okeem talking about their people cover their songs. The standout bit for me was that Okeem was really worried about learning the words, and I was like, of course he is.
Again, it's like they've edited this very well because this will come back.
Yeah, like going back through this in hindsight, at the time I was just like, classic Okeem.
Yeah, I did write a lol next to that bit there.
Yeah, but I mean, as we said last week, we were saying about how Akeem was in the bottom, but had such a great voice, he kind of pulled himself out. But we said he can't afford to fuck up these challenges again. So if he's down in the bottom, then they can't just keep letting him through based on that.
It's a strike system in that sense, really, isn't it?
Yeah. We then get to
Barry. Well, Nenna doing Barry's track.
And Nenna's a bit concerned because she knows it's a super personal song to Barry. It's about his nan who'd passed away.
That's right. Yeah.
So it is inherently personal, and she wants to make it her own, but also not kind of disrespect it.
Yeah,
and then she said she wants to do like an Afro spin on it.
Yeah,
and I
like
was
an Afro
okay.
house beat on it as well. And it's like, like you can see almost everyone, when you hear the other person talking about what they want to do with it, it kind of shows them a bit like, kind of thing. And it's just the classic, like we say, no matter what the end product is, the idea of, tampering with it so personally
I think with this bit as well,
worrying.
I feel like we've never really seen much of Nenna, like personality-wise. Last week we saw her get a bit stressed about the performance, but in this I was like, Nenna's really like sweet.
She seems very
she's
genuine.
really like genuine and just like nice. And
she seems
like,
nice. She seems, like we said last week, she seems like she really cares about the whole process. And the producer, even at this point, says she has like everything in the makings to be a star, apart from her confidence in herself.
Yeah,
and that's the kind of process that we see in this episode with her, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Also, she's always got great outfits as well.
She does.
She
also always looks fantastic.
She's always got a great dress on. Like, wow.
And then we have Okeem, who's doing a Mel song, and he wants to make it like a dark, like Motown
R&B thing.
Yeah. And we get into a bit of his backstory growing up in Birmingham. Like music was essentially an escape for him.
This is the bit as well. We get to see, same as with Barry's song, we get to see like a decent chunk of their performances from episode 1.
Yeah.
And we get to see bits that we'd never seen. It was like, okay, yeah, I can see what the kind of hype was about both Barry and Emelle vocally.
Yeah, I think as well, because that first episode, there was 10 of them back to back. It was like, because you had to listen to so many, it was easy to forget.
But even just, I remember with Barry in the first episode, I think it was the same with Emelle. We'd literally saw like these 10-second clips and then saw the really good reaction, and we're like, okay, we're led to believe something, and there's no reason why we should question it. But it's nice to actually kind of see that and hear that ourselves. So.
And then Okeem seems a bit unsure in the studio. He seems to be getting really overwhelmed. He's not really used. He said he's been in the studio a couple of times before, but
I think he said it was like 5 years ago or something. So he was quite out of the habit.
And he just seems to be a bit nervous about it all.
It's the whole thing of like with the group where he's not very kind of, not necessarily not decisive, but not kind of putting his mark and kind of getting involved, like
he's not taking the lead,
taking the initiative, jumping in, kind of almost speaking over other people and voicing his opinion. Unfortunately,
sitting back a bit. We get a great line from Emelle here where she's like, I don't mind if he like does bad because it makes me look better.
Like, she literally says like he doesn't know what he's doing in the studio, and then she's just like smiling. And you're like...
because like she's very competitive, but everything she says like is right. Like if he doesn't do a very good cover of her song, it makes her performance look better.
Absolutely.
And like she's not wrong, but you didn't have to say it, did you?
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff they cut out, but I'm glad they didn't cut that out. Very funny.
And then finally we got Dylan, the Mia song, and he's immediately got big plans.
It's so funny because he describes this thing that I'm like, I can kind of see what you're saying here. And I was thinking of a couple of different songs, and I don't think they were allowed to reference specific songs or artists in this because of, copyright or royalties or whatever it would probably be. But he mentioned a couple of things, and I'm like thinking like, I can kind of see what you're going for. And then it goes to the producers and they're like, what? Like, you're throwing so much at us here.
See, he said he wants it to be like indie and pop and dance.
And he's like, I want this like high guitar bit over the top and stuff.
And it's just like, how are we going to put this together? But like Dylan and the producers seem to have a good working relationship in this.
Definitely,
I think Dylan is the oldest of the group. And I think it shows that he's got kind of the most experience in this.
Definitely. Because I think that bit is one of those bits where it's taken out of context with the reaction that it's just very funny to see, because the final result is actually very good.
Yeah, and he's like leading the producers, telling them what he wants. They're giving a bit of feedback and then going back and forth, and they're really happy with what he's saying. And like, I was like, that's how things are meant to be.
And we see a bit with Mia where she seems to be a kind of combination of being like, I think she's quite protective when he's initially talking about it, and then it cuts to her being with the other lot in the holding area.
Yeah,
and she says like, this is really funny because she's like, she's really worried that she didn't do a good enough remix, basically.
Yeah, so
and then Barry's like, "You're upset because you don't think you'll be strong enough to survive." It's like, yeah, that's obviously why she's upset. You don't have to say it like that in front of everyone.
Leading
Barry.
her on there, Barry. But yeah, I think she's originally feeling weird about Dylan changing her song too much, and Barry's like, well, they want us to change the song. And I think him saying that makes her realise that she hasn't changed Dylan's song enough, and then she gets...
That's it.
And we've said before, perhaps lacking self-confidence at times, even though she's got an incredible voice. So I think that just knocked her back, being like, oh shit, I haven't done good enough.
As well, Emelle says, like, I think she says she thinks that you've failed if you don't make it better than the original kind of thing. That's her kind of point of view,
which is probably fair. They're working with producers, they've heard the songs, they're putting a twist on it. It needs to be a step up from what some guy
they don't want to hear the same
in his
thing
bedroom.
It doesn't want to be the same thing that they heard 2 weeks ago kind of thing, or whatever it was.
And then we get to the performances. So Nenna's up first doing Barry's song Yellow Rose. Yellow Roses. God's sake, words.
It might be Rose. I think it's Roses.
I'm such an Akeem.
You can't remember the lyrics.
And she's pretty good. I don't think it's an outstanding cover, but she's clearly got a really good voice, and it does show.
I feel like it's quite similar. It's just over a different beat. It's like what we literally said in episode 1, where Nenna was playing over quite a kind of chill track, and we were saying, like, to make it more commercially viable off the top of our head, make it into this kind of housey thing with like a bit more of a dancey background. And that's pretty much what she does here. But it doesn't, for the first one, and for it to feel very different, I don't think it comes across that way to us. Really.
Barry seems really happy with, I think because the song's personal to Barry as well, seeing a cover of it by somebody else who's got a great voice would be nice to see.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not bad in any way. I think it's a very good performance.
When she finishes, she bursts into tears, and Becky goes over and hugs her.
Yeah, it's very, very, very dramatic.
And she's like, "Oh, I love the vibe of it."
Yeah,
it's like,
I think part of that as well is knowing she got. It seemed like knowing she got through it, and maybe even seeing Barry's reaction as well. Like, I don't know how it was edited.
I think it was like pride more than
exactly.
Else. Jason says, "This is commercial. This is what we want,"
and we get Emelle saying there was nothing special. Hero.
Emelle's really filling that sisal shaped hole in the
we just need her to start feuding with Barry, and it'll be complete. Absolutely.
And then they swap over, and Barry's doing Nenna's song, Take Me For Who I Am.
He hypes it up in quite a way that I wasn't expecting, because he talks about like this kind of glam rock kind of vibe, and I was like, I know you kind of mentioned that earlier, but it's kind of not what I was expecting. And it kind of doesn't really match up to what he says, in my opinion.
No, I don't think so. I mean, this is the first time we really see Barry perform. His voice is fantastic. I kind of forgot how good his voice was.
I was surprised in that sense. And I think you can see there's loads of passion in it. And he does this kind of rocky, I don't know, almost like falsetto, slightly verging on screaming part there. Which I'm not giving the justice there. But that was kind of like, wow, I wasn't expecting this. And it's very different to the original, for sure.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think whilst it's not exactly glam pop, I think he 100% made it his own. And it sounded like a Barry song, not a Nenna song. And he even
changes a couple of the lyrics up front to make it more matched to him as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's one of the things that Nenna says afterwards. She when he first starts, seems quite like nervous, kind of. They do the nervous reaction phase. But she's happy. She says he connected with the lyrics, which is one of the most important things you could hope for as an artist. So all good stuff, really.
Becky says it was so good. Frank says it was pretty good. and Jason says it didn't sound, he didn't recognize the song as Nenna's song, which is a positive, because that's what they wanted. And then we get quite a sweet bit from Barry where he says he felt like himself for the first time, like this. And we've said he hasn't really had a performance that made him stand out. I think that kind of lines like this, for the first time he's been like, I'm here to win this, and not just coast along.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it was really nice to see that, to be honest.
And then Barry has a great line here where he's like, Frank was just like, I felt the emotion. Yeah, cool, thanks. It's like Frank's every line is like,
has he ever felt an emotion?
old robot Frank there. He's just like, yes,
Mr.
this was
Roboto.
emotional.
Dear. And then we get Mia next, don't we?
Yeah, Dylan's song Heaven Now.
Yeah,
And-
immediately she starts making excuses up front and being like, oh, and I'm like, this is what the whole thing with Lily
fucking
Joe in the first
do it.
episode. Like, just go
but
for it.
She goes into it, and it's a good song, which helps as well. And she shows off her voice, and she's got a good voice.
She's leading up to the chorus.
And then suddenly she stops, and I was
Yeah.
like, what the fuck? Because it doesn't seem like anything's outpaced.
No,
it's not
we
like
didn't notice
last
anything
week
wrong.
with the collaborations where you could see someone trip over a line.
Yeah.
I saw Akeem posted a really funny TikTok of like songs that had no in like the chorus. Like that's funny. That's good.
Yeah, and basically
she
she's like,
stopped.
oh, hang on, I messed it up. Like, can I start again? And it's like, doo-doo.
And everyone kind of stops, and Frank's like, the show must always go on. Like, it's ridiculous. And Dylan and Mia seem to have a nice relationship.
Yeah,
they seem
to get on
and he
very
goes
well.
on and like comforts her and being like,
Yeah.
don't worry, like, I don't care, it's my song, just like show yourself off. Like,
Yeah.
if you get the words wrong, nobody's gonna notice
No.
unless you stop.
Exactly,
Like,
yeah.
and they're like, fine, you can go again. And she goes again, and it's good. I think her voice is good. My main criticism of it is one thing she was concerned about is that it sounds like a Dylan song.
Yeah, I would say
it sounds
so.
like she's singing a Dylan song. It
I
doesn't
think-
sound like a Mia song.
I think in the same way as Nena's cover of Barry's song, it feels like doing it. It's a cover rather than a remix.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Is in like it's made very slightly your own by your own vocals and your own kind of backing music that's more your style. But I don't think she really changed up
No, particularly
enough
like
of it.
we know Mia's style. Like we've seen it. We know what she does is really good for her style.
But I see what she means because she really wanted to build up to the chorus and like let loose, and she picks up from the point that she messed up, so she doesn't start from the beginning, and she leads straight into that, and it is very impressive, and she shows off her voice as she always does.
Yeah,
but and the reactions are really nice, but
like,
it feels.
Becky says she likes it. Jason says like this could be on the radio now. But there's that overbearing thing, the fact she stopped and had to start again. Yeah. And Frank says, like, we're going to have to consider that because
of course,
you can't do. And I think he's like, I don't know if he says it now or later on, but he was like, if I'm paying to see that, I'm asking for my money back because you can't do that. Especially after last week. Like, you need to be on this, Mia.
Yeah.
Then Dylan swaps over and does Mia's song "Over You," and it's a good song. He adds like he's got his guitar with him. That. I felt like it seems a bit more dancier than Dylan's usual style, but he is covering a dance song.
He said he was kind of going for the kind of dancey, almost like an indie. I was thinking of like some recent Foles songs, which have had a bit more of the like faster pace that.
But it is
on like remixes of other stuff.
It is really good, and it's a really good performance. And it was that Dylan we saw from the start again. And it was like, that's why Frank saw him as a front runner at the start.
Thinking. I feel like all those three real front runners, like, well, not front runners, but the three that we saw as. They got very good reactions, but we didn't see a lot of them. So Nena, Barry, Emelle, and Dylan. So all of those we haven't really seen a lot of since then. So it's nice to see them in this episode, definitely.
As soon as she finishes, Becky's like, "Wow!" and she's like, "I can really hear like the Dylan in this." Jason says the verse could have been a bit better.
The melody's not very strong.
And Frank says the vocals could have been a bit better. And I get that, like. Nena, Barry, O'Keefe, Mia are all really strong vocally, whereas Dylan and Emelle have very good voices, but are more genre based. If you know what I mean. Dylan hasn't got the best vocals of the remaining people, but he makes up for it in his songs, which are very good. So
strong.
I think Frank's comment is fair, but like, it's kind of to be expected.
It's just funny because until this point, I think Becky has only said good things about them. It's only, it's only in the next couple that she's kind of like,
So then it's Akeem doing Emelle's song "Collateral Damage."
Does he say about worried about the lyrics again here? I'm pretty sure there's another talking head where he mentions it.
Yeah, and I feel like straight away that he's made this his own. And I'm like,
Really
cool.
reckon? Yeah, fair.
Yeah, like
I
this
felt
sounds
like
like
it sounded really not very. I thought it was quite like a flat kind of.
I thought the song was quite flat, but it sounded like his style of music.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. True.
And Mel's sitting there looking really uncomfortable.
She's pulling faces the whole time.
And like it's annoying because it's like you can see Akeem's got a good voice there, but the overall song and performance is just a bit meh.
And the thing is, the way that he kind of sings sometimes, it feels like he was fluffing the lyrics half the time, and I think he was. It doesn't really get mentioned.
Yeah, well, I think...
Oh no, Emelle does mention it actually.
Yeah,
but yeah,
we get a bit in a second.
There's bits where he learned not to do nas, but instead he's kind of mumbling parts instead.
Yeah, and it's weird because like what has got Akeem to this point really is his ability to do great covers, because that's what saved him last week, showing off his voice. And he's doing a cover song here.
The difference,
and it doesn't really stand out.
Yeah, the difference is with all the covers that we see in the Sing to Save Your Ass, that's something that they've spent weeks, if not years, preparing. Whereas these are ones that they've learned in a day or so.
Yeah.
And obviously there's skills in both, but they just don't know the songs as inside and out as they do with these other ones. And the other ones are, professionally tried and tested, aren't they?
Exactly.
So it's a shame, but that seems to be what the difference is between the two there. Yeah.
Becky says it wasn't her favourite vocals, which
that's right.
Because we know what Akeem can do.
Yeah, especially coming out of last week. Yeah.
Jason says it wasn't very strong as well. And we get talking ahead of Akeem, who says that was a shit show, and I was like, fuck. Like,
at least he's self-aware.
Yeah, and then as they kind of sitting down and kind of moving on, Emelle's like, sorry, I've got to say something. And I was like, do you, Emelle? Do you really need to say something? She's like, he got like my favourite words wrong, and I was like, "Oh, Emelle, you bitch!" I mean, like, I love that she's done that because it's hilarious. But like, and obviously, it's all competitive. We know she's competitive.
She's just like she's cutting that rope there,
but she is thrown him under the bus there. And then Frank is like shocked. He's like, "How?
Again?
Like, again?"
Again, Akeem.
I think because they made such a big deal last week of being like, you're the front runner if you can like get yourself together and do this properly. Yeah. And then Emelle's just like, nah, you fucked it.
It's like, sir, actually I need to just it wasn't on the same level as Seisel last week.
No,
literally going to the teacher's office.
It wasn't far off.
No.
Yeah. Do they say, Emelle, what do you think of the cover?
I think it's when he's still standing up, actually. I think it's they noticed her face, or someone, the producer whispered to them, because they do kind of go to her, and I think they're like, what do you think? And I think she does say, yeah. So I don't think it was quite her kind of butting her head.
But do you think it was her favourite words, or just the words Akeem got wrong?
Oh, either way,
It was highly entertaining.
Very good. Yeah.
And then after that, Emelle then has to perform. So it's like you have to. Imagine if she then get the words wrong. And she's doing Akeem's song, "Stay Loving Me."
Yeah.
It's a good song. And she performs well, but I felt like it still sounded more like Akeem than Emelle.
Definitely, yeah. It wasn't. This is what I'm saying from earlier. There was all this talk of country, and I don't think it was particularly country, at least what I see country as, and I may be completely wrong, and if I listen to more of Emelle's music I might realise that this is more like what she does.
Yeah, and it was good there.
And it was very good.
We also see a shot, one of few we see there, of Barry just vibing, fucking loving it. And I was like, he, as much as he can be a bit of a diva and a bit, she really does getting into
and
the other
support them. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
he
and
does
he's loving it.
them. Yeah, absolutely.
And it is good. And
I would say it is still very different to the one that we heard. But it's not a case of fully moving it into the genre that we know, kind of thing. But
and it is still good. Becky loves it. She says she'd buy an album of this tomorrow if it was out. Frank says it was the performance of the day.
Yep.
And I was like, it was good. I don't know if I'd pick it as the performance of the day.
I'd say it's up there. Yeah,
it's up there. Yeah. And Emelle's really happy.
Yeah. And then they ask Akeem just because that's the way this works.
Build up this rivalry. Seisel's gone. We've got to build up a new rivalry. And Akeem says it sounds like a TV advert for like
fried chicken.
I was like, wow.
I don't really know where he's coming from with that.
I think he just wanted to say something to get
Yeah.
to get back in Emelle's
She
face.
hated it.
Emelle's like, what the fuck? Like, you're just making shit up.
Inside an hour later where it goes to her, and she's like, what? Like,
Yeah, if you had told me last week the big rivalry of this episode would be Emelle and Akeem, I would not have expected that.
Absolutely. No. I'm looking forward to where this goes after this, to be honest.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of them's not going to.
The judges chat for a bit. They agree that Emelle was top.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Barry up there as
and
well.
Barry's up there, and I was like, yeah, those two deserve to
and is
go through.
is it Frank that says Dylan did a very bad job?
Yeah, it was a low light for him, and I was like,
It's harsh.
I thought Dylan was pretty good.
I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
I thought, but Charlie's gone. Frank needs a new target.
Yeah.
And then they're like, Akeem keeps letting us down. I think
Akeem.
Jason says that. It's like, he's got so much potential. He just needs to like fucking get the words right.
Yep. It's pretty important, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
And then they, of course, have to mention Mia.
Yeah, Jason said she would have been like a top 2 or 3, which I agree with, but
she stopped.
So you gotta consider that. So then they go see the contestants and they say, Emelle, you were the best. Well done. And then they're like, one of you didn't rise up to the challenge.
Yeah, which is confusing because I thought, like, are they just going to kick someone out straight away?
It sounded like that.
I was like, to be fair, if you've been in the bottom and then you fuck up for the exact same reason, I wouldn't put it past them just dropping you straight away.
Yeah. But yeah, they're like, one of you didn't rise up to the challenge. Akeem, you forgot the words again. And it was a pitchy performance. And I was like, okay, Akeem's gone then.
Yeah.
And they're like, you're in the sing-off, and I was like,
danger of being dropped. Like,
okay,
they're doing that thing. And also you, Mia.
Yeah, and then Mia, you're in the bottom because we need a bottom too.
Yeah.
But from this point, I was like, this sing-off doesn't matter because Akeem's gone, right?
Yeah,
because
fundamentally.
we know he can sing. He's not going to show us anything new here.
No, and it's that whole thing of second strike situation. And they even mention, it's not, spoilers or skipping ahead particularly, but they mention, like, we know, they say, like, that you can always pull it out, or they may even said it, you can always pull it out in the covers, but you need to be hitting all the other points as well. So you can't continually be singing for your soul or whatever.
And part of me feels like, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but Mia's kind of the worst person to go up against for Akeem because they're both excellent vocalists. So, like, as much as Akeem can show off how good his voice is, Mia can match it.
Yeah.
So then if the vocal performances are matched,
then it goes back on the past ins and it's
so when Akeem was up against Seisel, who was a great performer but not as strong a vocalist, his vocals got through. Up against Mia, it's hard.
And also,
it's gonna be hard
like,
to beat.
Mia, she obviously stuffed up a little bit in this episode, but vocally has been one of the most consistent, one of the most kind of, at least to my ears, like pitch perfect, like hitting everything 100%. That we see. So it's like, it's almost no contest in that. Because if Akeem fucks up at all in the performance, it's like, it's curtains,
I think I said to Christina, like, the only way Akeem's staying at this point is if Mia, like, royally fucks up this performance.
Yeah, exactly.
And she sings Singing All For You by Cyan Ducrot. Is that how you pronounce it?
I wrote by someone, so I don't know. I think I missed it. Yeah.
And she's picked a song to show off her voice. And honestly, I think this is the best performance we've seen of the entire show so far.
That's what I wrote. One of the best covers we've seen.
I think it's unbelievable. Like, literally, like,
from the start,
goosebumps I got from this.
Smashing the shit out of that song.
And I think it's like a piano ballad, which I think suits her more than like the dance music she does.
Yeah.
Because she can show off her voice. And like, it's genuinely incredible. I think it's like the most powerful song we've seen at all performed. I think this is, of every performance at the top of the first few episodes, I think this is the one I hold at number one.
Who's got Mia in the competition?
I think you do.
Oh, fair.
Yeah, unfortunately. And I was like, she had to royally fuck up for Akeem to survive, and this was just like unbelievable. And then Frank just says, "Thanks for that."
Thanks.
And goes up, and I was like, fuck's sake.
It's a classic Frank's thanks.
Yeah, and then Akeem's perform, and he does Let's Get It On by Marvin Gaye. And I'm like, I get why he's done it.
Yeah.
But similar with some of the problems past people have had, Marvin Gaye's got such an Marvin voice and such a distinctive voice.
Yes, iconic, recognizable.
And particularly Let's Get It On. Like, any cover of Marvin Gaye is gonna sound worse in comparison.
That's it. Like,
particularly when everyone knows this song.
That's it. Even if you get close and you show off your voice and you nail most of it, it's still such a high standard to say.
Yeah.
And it's such a challenge as well, because it's such a kind of complex song vocally.
Yeah. And
or at least, you know, to my
and
like ears.
When it started, I've written down here, like, Akeem's got a good voice, but he's not Marvin Gaye.
No, he's showing his range well, which is what he wanted to do. And he says that Marvin Gaye means a lot to him, and yeah, completely understand that. But it's not as kind of clean as Mia's performance. It's like he's really good, but it's like a rung down from what we see in the previous performance.
I think last week he was better than this week.
Exactly.
And part of me is like, is he holding back a bit because he kind of has it in the back of his head that he thinks he's fucked up? Maybe. We do see Barry vibing again to this though. He fucking loves it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great song,
I think like it is a good performance. But you compare it to Marvin Gaye, and it's not anything we haven't seen before from Akeem. Whereas Mia showed another side to her that was unbelievable. And Frank says, thanks.
Another Frank's thanks. There we go.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of discussion there, but
Mia thinks, she's out. Mia thinks she's out because she constantly thinks she's out, even though she just put in a great performance. Jason says Akeem's song was one of his favorites, and that he always shines doing other songs. And I was like, that's fair. I still think he was better last week.
Yeah, but that's not what it's about, is it? It's not a cover show, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So
and Becky says Mia's confidence needs to catch up with her ability, and that is completely fair.
Agree,
if she was as confident as her voice is good, like, she would steamroll this competition, I reckon.
Yeah.
So then it's decision time. And Frank's just like, Akeem can't keep doing this. He can't keep fucking it up.
2 twice in a row. Not.
And Becky says that, like, the insecurities got to Mia a bit, but when it comes down to it, the final decision is Akeem has to be dropped. And it's not just that Mia's performance was better, it is that he keeps fucking up, and he knows that. He's probably fucking kicking himself, because some people have left just because other people are better. Yeah. He's not leaving because other people are better. He's leaving because he keeps getting words, which must be so annoying.
Really frustrating, I bet.
Yeah, but he says thanks. They just say he needs some more experience.
Yeah, they're very nice. That I think it's Jason says he was like a bright light on the show, and he's like, thanks him for the opportunities, no regrets. He's like, he hopes he's done Birmingham proud and all that kind of thing. I feel like everybody's got quite a good attitude leaving. So
they do.
Everyone that we've seen. Well, we didn't really see Jay leave, unfortunately. He just was out.
Maybe he went off on a
Maybe he did, but
everybody, Lily Joe, nice Charlie, Seisel, and Akeem were all kind of like, we're happy for the experience. They're really taking on the
saw
message.
Seisel posted she was on BBC West Points or whatever, the Bristol area one. She was on the BBC News. She had a little interview with with the person.
She's from Bristol, isn't she?
Yeah, and she was talking about basically just that, like how it's an opportunity, and it puts you on the map and gives you the experience of being kind of knocked back and all that sort of stuff. And it was all stuff that we kind of said on here. So maybe she got a couple of answers from this podcast.
But Mia goes back to the group, immediately gets a big hug from Dylan, because they seem friends now, and that's the episode.
That's it.
So next time they said they're going to be making a music video.
Yes, iconic music video. And it seems like they're all working together on the same music video. And so I don't know if it'll be a case of they're all doing like a Becky Hill song or a Jason Derulo song, and they're going to be doing their own version, or maybe even just doing a mime version.
I think probably that. Yeah. Which, I mean, I think they say there's going to be more arguments next week. But I feel
it shows some tension.
Again, this favors the bigger personalities. So like Barry and Emelle will shine at this, I reckon. Mia and Nena may get a bit,
and Dylan
to an extent, maybe get a bit more nervy about this. And I think,
although to be fair, I think Nena's confidence from what we've seen is in terms of like the stakes and the creative decisions in certain, well, not creative decisions, but certain decision making things, whereas performance-wise and stage presence, she's been quite good and quite confident. So on camera, it's obviously she might shine in the same way as the other two you mentioned. It would be really hard to see.
I mean, as we said before with Seisel and Okeem, is that you can't fall into that bottom multiple times.
No,
and I worry with the music video that Mia may end up
even
though I
really
think she's really good.
Yeah.
I think because of an ongoing narrative with her has been her kind of self-confidence, and that is something that could be exposed.
We saw a little couple of bits. There was a bit where she was kind of like lying on the bar or something, doing like a bit to the camera, and obviously they're all gonna have their little moments and stuff. I guess they'll have a choreographer and stuff. Or maybe they probably shouldn't have to do that themselves. It's not really in the job description, is it? But no, it'd be interesting. And if it is mostly a kind of dance/mime challenge in a lot of ways, that could be a whole other element to it. Because, you know, if you think about it, if you are a pop star, you will have to do music videos, and if you can't kind of get on a set and mime to your own song or someone else's song, then you're dropped.
So in terms of, you know, who are our contestants, Okeem was one of yours, so you're now down to 2.
Yes.
Mia and Nenna.
Yeah, I'm happy with those two. I'm very happy with those two, to be honest.
I've got Dylan, Emelle, and Barry. Who do you think is the front runner at this point?
I think, despite the kind of concerns about being in the bottom 2, I think Mia really has it in her to take it home there. I think Nenna equally does, but I think from what we see in this episode and that cover song challenge, Mia kind of smashed it out of the park. Dylan, I can see as almost an outsider if we're doing it in those two ways, because I can see the potential that he had from the start and what they were always going on about that we never really saw on screen. His rendition of Mia's song was really, really good, and despite the criticism, I really enjoyed it. So I think this next challenge for him next week might be something that maybe doesn't work in his favor from what we've seen. But if I were to do it, let's say Mia as the kind of main one and Dylan as the outsider for me, if I'm just doing the two.
Fair enough. I think Dylan, although we like the performances, I feel like the judges haven't really been on his side since the start. I think Emelle is kind of picking up steam and is becoming more and more of a front runner as things progress. But I think the same as you. I think Mia, if I had to pick one person right now who I think should win, it'd be Mia. It's just whether or not the challenges.
The confidence, though,
and then I think alongside Mia, we spoke about not seeing their performance before. Barry's performance was great in this. We finally got to see him sing, and he was really good. And he's got that self-confidence and kind of performing ability that I think, although Mia's got the voice and probably the standout singer, along with Nenna and maybe Emelle and Barry, they've all got good voices. But
it is getting hard to.
I think Barry's got a great voice, but also has those added qualities that can help these challenges.
I think the bits that we saw of him in this episode, with him doing his more kind of rock vocals and that sort of thing, I think if he can lean into that more and they give him the chance to do stuff like that, which is probably the real thing in this situation. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That plus the stage presence, plus the personality, plus the kind of ego that you need to see you through. He has got that in spades.
So I think I'm going to go Barry is my first choice, and then from that outsider, I think just because we seem to not talk about her much as the others is Emelle.
I enjoyed all her personality stuff in this.
But she's been consistently good, but we never talk about her as a front runner.
I think it's probably the same thing that we've said with lots of people, where we're not seeing much of them because they're in it for the long haul, and the people that we see a lot more of are maybe the people that we're not going to see much of in later episodes.
Potentially. Give them their screen time.
If that's the case, that means she's out next episode because we saw loads of her this time. But I don't think that would be the case.
No, but so I think with our remaining ones, you've got Mia and Nenna. I've got Dylan, Emelle, and Barry. I think
it's still pretty
even. Like last week, I think I was favouring you more, but I think because Barry's big
Yeah.
performance here, and the fact you've now lost Akeem.
I
think
don't
it's quite
feel
even.
like I'll lose both Mia and Nena in the next couple of weeks.
No.
I don't imagine I'd lose both of them, but prove me wrong, Project Icon.
It's so hard to predict who's going to go out next.
It really is. After last week, I was like, well, Akeem's great.
Yeah.
oh no.
But like, it has been the last 2 episodes. The person that's gone out is the one who's been in the Sing to Save Your Ass, which was Sisal and then Akeem.
Yeah.
So following that pattern, it'll be Mia. But at this point, I can't see Mia going out next episode. It just depends.
Yeah, again, it's all based on confidence, isn't it? And kind of having that belief in yourself that you can just kind of smooth over the mistakes that no one else notices. So
yeah,
hopefully she takes that on board for next week. But
so yeah, what do you think of the episode overall?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I don't know. I still think the first one kind of. I think I enjoyed this more than the second episode.
Yeah,
I think the second episode had more kind of drama, but I really enjoyed being able to see more of the performances and really get a feel for each of the individual kind of contestants on it. I don't know. I think last week I rated it 7 because it was 8 first week and then I went down to 7. I don't know if this is back up to the heights of the original episode. I don't know. What about you, just generally?
I think I enjoyed this more than last week because, as you said, we got to see them all perform, which I think was something missing from last week. I was feeling quite knackered though.
Yeah, I was exhausted. Yeah.
So I think it was better than last week, but I gave the first episode an 8, and I think that hooked me more. So I think I'll give this one a 7 again.
Yeah.
Which I think it was enjoyable. I think I was just, the fact that I was tired.
Yeah, I'm thinking 7 as well, which is very high for us, isn't it? Generally speaking, if you listen back to a random episode, you're lucky to get over a 5 on this podcast.
Yeah, I think our average rating's probably like a 4.
Yeah, yours is about 4. Mine's about 5.
Yeah, there's lots and lots of 6s, so the fact that there's sitting at 7 is pretty good. I do feel like there was a bit of a I think we're missing Sisal this week. I think she's so entertaining.
That's the Emelle that we got in this time, and I appreciated it. Like I said, I think she was the hero of the episode in lots of ways.
Yeah,
but yeah, there was a certain kind of blind self-confidence that was
see, I think Emelle's like super competitive, whereas Sisal was just like a bit of a diva that was like entertaining to watch,
talking about it as if she was bigger than the competition, which is really fun to see, and the kind of thing that rubbed me up the wrong way at first and made me kind of think, I don't like this person, and then be like, no, actually it's quite entertaining.
I think that's kind of from the start. I was like, she's gonna be a fun one to watch, and that's why I was like, it's a shame she's not there. And Charlie was sweet. I feel like we kind of losing a lot of people who were fun to see.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, but oh well, that's life, isn't it?
That's life.
That's the record industry.
Cool. So that is Project Icon for the week. We'll be back again to do episode 4 next week. So hang around for that next week.
Yeah.
But before that, if you want to tell us who you think is going to win, who you think are the stand-up performers, you can get in contact with us. Our details,
all in the episode description. And if you aren't listening past this point, if you don't care about the Mandalorian or all the other stuff in the episode description, we'll see you next week. And very much thank you for listening.
Yes, but for those who are sticking around, the heroes of the listenership, it is now time for Personal Projects.
You have left me no option but to authorize the seizure of your personal
projects.
So, Sam, what have you been watching, reading, seeing, discovering, or listening to?
Yeah, some of those things. I watched a couple of films, mostly yesterday, actually.
You watched yesterday?
Yeah, mostly a couple of films.
The film about if the Beatles disappeared.
No, I've seen that, though. It was all right.
No, I've not seen it.
It was all right. I didn't watch that yesterday, though. No, yesterday, as of time of recording, I watched a couple of films. One of them was Knock at the Cabin.
Oh yeah,
which was the M. Night Shyamalan film, which came out a very short while ago.
I heard it was pretty good.
It was pretty good, yeah. I'm not a massive fan of M. Night Shyamalan stuff in general. He's got his hits and misses for sure.
Probably of all directors, he's probably the most like hit and miss
Yeah.
director.
I'd say it's more on the hit side of things for sure. I don't know how much you know about the premise of the film. Did you ever see a trailer? You went to cinema a fair bit around that time. No, it's so there's a cabin and there's a knock.
Oh wow!
There's actually 7 knocks. It's actually very hearing 7 knocks in a row. You're like, oh, that's a little bit too many knocks. That's the first thing that gets you there.
I'll remember that next time I come here to knock 7 times.
But yeah, so there's a couple. It's a gay couple. It's 2 guys, and they've got an adoptive daughter, and they're staying at this cabin for like a nice breakaway. It's in the woods somewhere in Pennsylvania or somewhere like that. And then these 4 strangers turn up and knock at the cabin door.
Do they each knock 7 times, or is it 7
They
total?
all knock together. So actually, before the bit you see at the start is the daughter. She's playing around catching dragonflies, grasshoppers, and Dave Bautista's character. It's not that funny. It's quite different though. Catching.
Yeah.
He comes up and he's Dave Bautista. He's very kind of big presence, but he's being his kind of calm, almost like in Blade Runner, where he's kind of very gentle giant kind of persona. And he has a little chat with her, and she's kind of strange danger, but she's also knows that he's giving off kind of nice but weird vibes kind of thing. Right. And then he's like, my friends are coming and we're going to give you guys this big kind of decision to make, and it's really important. And she kind of freaks out and runs inside as the other people turn up. And they've got these weird kind of weapons that they've made out of different like household things. There's like a weird sledgehammer with like a mace swinging off it. And it's very kind of weird kind of stuff. And they do the big knocks and then they don't let them in, but eventually they break in and kind of keep the 2 guys hostage while the kid's just there kind of thing. And they basically say that they've all each individually had these visions of the world ending, and they knew they had to come to this cabin. They didn't know who was going to be there, and the people have to make a decision that will save the whole world and humanity. And it means that one of the family have to die by their hands. They have to sacrifice one of the 3, which is obviously awful because it's a couple that love each other and their daughter that they've lovingly adopted. So it's a big kind of proposition, and obviously they don't believe them. And as it kind of goes on, you start to think, is this real, as things start to happen in the world, or at least on the news? And it's kind of how much of this is something that they've kind of got this shared delusion that they may be faking. And the couple are also like, is this like a targeted homophobic like attack to try and make us like hurt each other? And it keeps this kind of thread going quite successfully throughout. And the tension's very good. It's almost like a one location play, like the Hateful Eight or like Reservoir Dogs, where it's very much in this location for the majority of the film. And generally speaking, all very good performances. And it, as with most of these M. Night Shyamalan films, gets a little bit silly towards the end, and you're like, okay, so that was what was happening. And
does it have a big twist at the end?
Not in the same kind of breakneck way as some films. It's not like wow, that came out of nowhere. It's more like, oh, okay, so that was what was happening kind of thing.
Right. So you do find out
you
the
do
truth.
Yeah, and it's not like a crazy twist. In a way, it's quite crazy because of the situation and what's going on, but yeah, I enjoyed it. It's a fun film, and I'm kind of glad I didn't see it in the cinema because it's something that's not probably quite that standard.
Right.
But I probably would have really enjoyed it in the cinema. And we watched the whole thing very like engaged, and it wasn't the kind of thing you're getting up and pausing and all that sort of thing. So yeah, pretty high praise for something like that, I think.
Nice.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So what have you been watching?
So I've been watching Star Trek, but I won't go into that. So obviously I was away for most of the weekend, so didn't get a chance to watch much. But on Sunday, I had to put something on with dinner for the kids to enjoy. So we watched Chicken Run, which I haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah, it's on Netflix, isn't it? I've seen it pop up.
Because obviously Chicken Run 2 comes out later this
on
year.
On Netflix as well, I think,
Netflix, yeah. Chicken Run's really good. And there's way more jokes that like for adults than I'd kind of realised before. Like I think I had clicked some of it, but I must have not seen this for years because some bits just really made me laugh. So I was like, that is a great joke. There's bits where because obviously there's bits where they're like learning to fly and stuff, where it's just joke after joke after joke after joke. And you're like, this is great. Like, this is just genuinely really funny. Like, and it's just like so obviously it's the two farmers who are like chopping them down.
Yeah.
The guy, he goes through so much shit, and like, he's clearly like getting abused by his wife and stuff, and he's
just like losing it as well,
and like being
I
gaslit
remember.
into like with these chickens, and he's like that doing stuff, and it's like his gradual mental breakdown that I just kind of never thought about. But like, it's great fun, and obviously it's Aardman. The animation is fantastic, and you have moments where like, you kind of forget this is like stop animation. And you're like, yeah, this is really, really well done. And kind of all the references and the old guy who was in the RAF. And, and it's just there's so many bits to this film that are just like strokes of genius. And
I don't know too much about the new one. Is it going to be, do we know if it's going to be a sequel? Or?
I think so. I don't know.
No, I think
anything
I've heard
about
bits and pieces. I mean, it has a great voice cast from what I remember. So I imagine they'll get a lot of them back.
So like, off the top of my head, it had like obviously Mel Gibson is the American.
I was trying to remember who that
rooster.
was.
It's got what's her name? Irma something, who's in Harry Potter.
Yeah.
It's got Timothy Spall in it.
Yes.
I think his name's Paul Daniels, who's also in it. A bunch of people who you're like, oh yeah, I know them.
Yeah. It's a good kind of mostly British cast, isn't it?
Yeah, and then obviously Mel Gibson is the American and like very American chicken, and like there's lots of jokes about how the older chicken's like constantly calling him like a Yank, like derogatory. It's like, it's a very British film in that sense, but it's just good fun. So the the sequel that's going out later this year is called Chicken Run: Dawn of the Nugget.
Okay.
Which it's got Ramesh Ranganathan in it.
Cool.
Tandy Newton, Zachary Levi all join in.
Zachary Levi, wow, okay.
Yeah, it's not all the same cast. A lot of the cast have left. Bella Ramsey as well.
Yeah.
Doesn't have much plot stuff. But
okay, yeah. Whatever
sure
it is,
fun.
I mean, Aardman are pretty much all hits, really, aren't they?
Yeah.
So even the lesser, not well known, but ones that didn't do quite so well, they're still, if they're on Netflix, it's like, you're in for a treat.
I never really watched Shaun the Sheep because obviously that was like for kids.
Yeah.
But like the Shaun the Sheep movie is actually really fun. It's actually like
I remember coming home from school when I think probably Shaun the Sheep had just kind of started, so I was too old for it really, but it was on TV when I come back. Sometimes I'd turn it on and be like, oh yeah, this is like, it's very obviously for kids and there's not much dialogue and it's very kind of,
some of the jokes are really good. The movie was like, this is a good kids film. So I haven't really watched anything else.
No.
Have you?
Yeah, I watched a couple of films that are, so did you hear about it was Adam Sandler, actually, who I'm not a massive fan of normally. Murder Mystery that he did a couple of years ago.
Yeah, there was a second one, wasn't
there?
So
the second one has just come out recently. They're both Netflix films. So it was a Monday and we were like, Easter Monday, so it's bank holiday. We thought we might as well stick the first one on. I saw that it was directed as well by Karl, who has done... He's one of the guys in Workaholics. He's the drug dealer, Karl.
Yes.
And he's also directed he did a lot of the behind the scenes stuff for Workaholics. He's done a lot of the What We Do in the Shadows TV show.
Right.
He's kind of up and coming kind of comedy director. Oh, he's probably beyond that now, but he's not like household name, but he's like, he's all hits as well. So I saw that he did it and I was like, okay, that's a pretty good stamp. Jennifer Aniston is also quite funny in lots of stuff. And she's the female lead in it as well. And it's effectively like, the closest thing I can compare it to is like Knives Out, in that it is a murder mystery and it's got these kind of comedic elements, and both the plots of the first and second one are kind of quite similar to Knives Out and Glass Onion in a way, which is interesting because I don't know how closely the developments of those were. It's obviously not on those scale in terms of a film. It's not like... visually not as good, the cast aren't quite as interesting, but the first one has a pretty decent cast. There's Gemma Arterton's in the first one, and the guy who plays Black Panther's dad in both
Right.
films as well, which is interesting.
But he got blown up by the Winter Soldier.
And actually, he only has one arm in this, so it kind of works.
Okay.
And what's the guy who he looks like Orlando Bloom, but he's Welsh. Do you know what I mean?
No,
Luke Evans.
Right. Okay.
Because in The Hobbit, he's a Welsh guy who looks exactly like
I
Orlando
see
Bloom.
where you're coming from.
Yeah, he's in it, and like the premise of it is Adam Sandler's like a police guy in New York, and he wants to be a detective, and he keeps failing the detective exam, and he's told his wife Jennifer Aniston that he passed it. So there's a bit of like relationships not on the rocks, but it's not like perfect for them.
Yeah.
And he's been promising this honeymoon for the 15 years since they got married, and she's like, why haven't we done it, kind of thing. And he's just like, well, to save the marriage, we'll just go to Europe. And then on the plane, she ends up in first class and she meets Luke Evans, who's this like billionaire guy, and he invites them to I think it's either a wedding or a wedding party on a yacht. And it's very much from that point, it's like a kind of Agatha Christie thing. But they're these two like American tourists who really stand out amongst this like international cast of wacky characters. So a lot of the comedy comes from that, because as soon as the murder happens, it's like all the people know each other, and they're like, it's obviously these two Americans who just turned up randomly, and you're like, did they get invited as like foil, like scapegoats for it and stuff? So there is some interesting stuff, and
fair enough.
It kind of moves quite.
Is it on streaming?
Yeah, they're both on Netflix. Yeah,
Okay,
so the first one was definitely worth a watch. The second one, they kind of step it up a bit in terms of the action, and there's actually quite a lot of stuff in Paris, which reminded me of John Wick 4 as well. They do go to the Eiffel Tower, so it might now be one of the better films that has the Eiffel Tower in it, as we mentioned a few weeks ago. And Mark Strong's in the sequel, and he's very good in it. He's playing it very straight, kind of like almost like super spy character. So
nice.
Yeah, it's good fun. It's definitely like post night out, like morning kind of film, like a bit of a hangover film.
I might check it out.
I would. The first one is better than the second one. Karl Newacek didn't come back for the sequel, so
fair enough. Did you ever watch Uncut Gems with Adam
No,
Sandler?
so I never did. It's been on my Netflix list since it came out, and I really wanted to watch it because I really like the Safdie brothers, and I really like Good Time that they did before that with Robert Pattinson. And everyone was like, it's the most anxiety-inducing film ever. And I was like, I don't want to watch that.
It's really, really good. It's one of those films that Adam Sandler's really good as the main character, and you just hate him so much, but you want him to just like sort himself out. And he just kept fucking it up. And like the end is just kind of literally like, fuck.
Yeah,
like,
no, I will watch it. I think
it's really good.
If I'm feeling mentally stable one week.
Yeah, it is intense because it just
he's just owing money and fucking it up.
It just makes it's the anxiety stuff of just like I could not handle like all this money and stuff, just like fucking hell. But yeah, watch that.
Yeah.
Adam Sandler came.
Yeah, like I said, I've barely seen much Adam Sandler stuff, and I know he has done quite a lot of films recently that have been very kind of get all my mates and we'll all be funny for a bit. And compared to some like ensemble kind of more like natural comedian things, some of his stuff feels a little bit forced to me. So,
I agree. That's why it's really refreshing to see him in Uncut Gems. It's like, oh no, he can actually act.
He doesn't act much in these ones.
No.
Yeah, you watch much else?
The Mandalorian. I literally watched it yesterday because I hadn't got
I think
around
I
to
did
it.
as well. I can't remember.
And it's a bit of a star-studded episode, isn't it? It was a bit of a filler side mission one, but it was fun to see Jack Black and Lizzo and Christopher Lloyd. I was like, cool. I saw some people didn't like Lizzo's inclusion.
Yeah, but I mean, she's not the best actress ever.
Yeah, but I saw some people saying that it took them out of it and stuff. But I thought it was weird because I didn't see anyone say that about Jack Black.
No, exactly. There's probably some standards there.
But I thought they were both quite charming. At first, I thought there was going to be another layer to them, like they were actually mischievous. But it was quite nice that they were just kind of a nice married
a weird,
couple.
eccentric couple. Like I really liked visually, it was very different to a lot of what we've seen in Mandalorian.
Yeah,
like the Dome City was kind of, I think that's like what Mandalore was like, kind of thing. Is that right?
It's kind of like a paradise,
like a utopian kind of thing.
Yeah.
And even like their outfits, like he's got this kind of post-imperial kind of
Plazir 15 it was called.
kind of post-imperial like military outfit.
Yeah.
And she's got this crazy like hollow dress with the sci-fi
and
shit
her
on the
hair
back.
like sticking out, looked great.
Like it was very like Naboo kind of thing. But if Naboo was, 50 years later with the extra technology, like it's just.
And like it was a bit of a filler episode in terms of plot wise, but I cool. Enjoyed it.
I liked that it was like basically Din and Bo-Katan were basically just being like Blade Runners, and they were just like hunting down the rogue droids, and then it turned out that the droids wanted to help, and it was just, and like the fact that we saw this above city, and then they go underground, and there's this cool like Coruscant like Blade Runner city.
Yeah, that when they go into the droid bar, like, that's so cool because. Like, we never really seen that, and they're listening to kind of electro music, all like sipping on their
and
like
they all have
oil.
the same drink thing. And like, no, it doesn't work like that. You all have the same drink, and the fact that it was like the drink was spiked, kind of thing. It was all like it was a fun. It was very
nice
very
like
Blade
mystery.
Runner kind of going through.
I was a bit disappointed the plot wasn't progressed because they've only got like 2 episodes left now. Although it did end with a big thing where they've got the rest of the Mandalorians on side now, and Bo-Katan's now got the dark saber.
It was another thing where it was like, I feel like this is going to end, and this will be the start of the next episode. They're like, no, we've got 10 minutes left for a big fight, and I'm like, cool.
When it showed the previously on, which I often try and avoid because it gives you spoilers, it shows the bit where he lost to the guy in Bo-Katan thing. I was like, oh yeah, technically the dark saber should be Bo-Katan's now, and then it comes up at the end. And I was like, oh yeah, that's why they showed
I've seen people kind of. I mean, I'm fine with it. It's one of those things, and it makes sense to just get that bit done. Like it's whatever.
Yeah.
And people are getting into the minutiae of it and being like, well, actually, because of this and this, like it was actually Anakin's, and then it was, or not Anakin. I think people said it was Vader's somehow, but I don't really know how that works.
Think this is it's a made up system. Like
like, and the thing is, basically, all those guys, like the posh guy who leads them, was kind of just on his face. He was like, that's kind of bullshit, but it's the result we want, so we're not going to question it. That's the kind of vibe I got from it.
Kind of fake traditions,
meaningless
and stuff.
shit,
so I was like, cool. And Bo-Katan, unlike Din, can actually wield the dark saber. So sure. I did see a funny thing on Reddit, I think, that was like, Christopher Lloyd in Back to the Future 4 went too far back in time, far long ago, and was known as Man of DeLorean, and started a new religion. Very good. Christopher Lloyd was fun in this. I like the twist that he turned out to be the villain,
that was good.
and I like that he was like a Dooku loyalist. Which
that was a fun name drop there. I was like,
he wasn't a separatist. He was just loyal to like Dooku and believe, even though we know Dooku's beliefs were pretty hollow.
Based on that Tales of the Jedi thing as well.
I've often seen discussions about like the wider universe perception of like the Clone Wars and stuff, with the rise of the Empire and not really knowing what happened, it'd be understandable for a lot of people to be like, the separatists were right. Like they were right, even though we controlled. And Count Dooku, as Dooku was a respectable like former Jedi. It makes sense that there's people like Christopher Lloyd out there who are like, he had the right idea, like independence.
And just seeing like all the battle droids and stuff again, and just them in just funny situations, like with a line of the super battle droids carrying, he's just kicking them, and that one's just like, hey, you can't be here. Like,
classic droid behavior.
and the bit at the start that we didn't talk about much, there was like the fish people, like with the Mon Calamar as well. It was like a little Romeo and Juliet thing.
I was like, is that just? I was like, they're clearly 2 very different races. Like, is it just fish people attracted to fish people?
Who knows? It was like, what, is this going to be the plot? No, it's just the little thing to show that these guys are being bounty hunters. Which
I guess it has interesting implications, because last week we were told that essentially, somebody with Beskar broke out Moff Gideon, and we said, maybe it wasn't the Mandalorians, maybe it was the Death Troopers or whatever. But this seems to imply it was the Mandalorians.
It could have been, these exact guys.
Yeah, which is then kind of like, why were these guys happy to break out Moff Gideon?
Well, I guess if it's a paycheck, but then they were the same, like the core lot were the same ones that helped capture in the first place.
Yeah.
'Cause they were the ones on the ship with Bo-Katan and the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Right?
So there's
Yeah.
interesting levels.
But it
to
could be,
this.
as we've seen, there's multiple different lots of them knocking about the Mandalorian. So it could be a separate lot that will mean that they come into conflict, kind of thing.
It did make me laugh when Bo-Katan and the guy like had their fight to basically decide who's gonna be in charge of the Mandalorians.
Yeah.
And you just see like loads of people in the background just walking around like doing their usual stuff. And I was like,
They're like, this is normal for us.
yeah, it's like, and none of them just like, oh shit, look, our leader's fighting Princess Bo-Katan over there. I'll do it once I finish stacking these boxes.
It's interesting as well seeing the difference in the looks of the Mandalorian armor, because that lot all have very uniform color schemes and everything.
Professional
very
armor.
professional, whereas the Children of the Watch have these like multicolored patchwork, which is
Halloween
also like
costume.
it's also like they can paint their armor as well. They could paint it like nice different colors, but it's just like there's a guy with like green and yellow and red, and it looks great, and it's very kind of that kind of dusty kind of original trilogy vibe. But it's so contrasting with these guys.
But I guess that's kind of the point, that these guys are like more professional, and that it is a secret little cult that don't have the resources as much.
True, yeah.
So they have to make do and wear it 24/7.
Yeah,
So
which is why it looks like shit, isn't it?
Yeah,
true.
But yeah, it was a decent episode. If a bit filler. And again, last week I kind of said I really wanted these last 3 episodes to be really good to match seasons 1 and 2. And whilst this was good, it's still, this season's not reaching the heights of season 1 and 2. It may end. It's got Rick Famuyiwa doing both last 2 episodes,
which means they're probably effectively part 1 and part 2.
And he's done some great episodes from previous seasons, so they're probably leading up to this.
I noticed as well, I might be wrong because I didn't go back and check through, but almost every, if not every episode so far has started with the word "the," and this one was called Guns for Hire, and I don't know if it was the first one that didn't have a "the."
Yes, I noticed that as well, because at first I was like, because I was doing my ratings, I was like, that seems weird that this one isn't. But looking back, actually, season 2, they were all the something.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go back to season 1.
Yeah,
now.
I'm just scrolling. From what I can see of top rated anyway, they all are.
Oh, wait. Episode 4 of season 1 was called Sanctuary.
Okay.
And episode 8 of season 1 was called Redemption. But then the other 14 episodes of season 1 and 2 and the first 5 of these,
because it was even
the.
like most of the time it was the and one word, like the child or the Mandalorian, and then even this a couple episodes ago it was the Mines of Mandalore, and I was like, you're kind of pushing this the thing now a little bit, and then they just completely dropped it for this.
Guns for Hire.
Yeah.
Anyway. I don't know what that is.
Maybe there's a theme. Maybe they're the less plot-based episodes. That's not true, is it? No?
Well, no, because it was the final episode of season 1 which I can't remember exactly what happened, but it's probably a big one.
They're all on that planet, and Karl Weathers was there or something.
Oh yeah, it's that one.
He was like, "Help me."
But yeah, so what? Have you got any predictions for the final 2 episodes?
I mean, I imagine we need to find out about the Moff Gideon stuff. I think based on the stuff that's been announced with like Ahsoka and that, I reckon that Thrawn will probably become the main villain of the overall thing, which means that probably the Moff Gideon stuff will be resolved in these next 2 episodes.
Yeah.
But it depends if there's a Mandalorian season 4 before that Dave Filoni film in a few years. Because if there's going to be another one, this might be just the setup for that. Or it may be there's another Coven of Mandalorian or whatever.
I kind of get the feeling from this season that it's going to have kind of a finale, but looking back in a few years, it'll be like, oh yeah, season 3 was mostly building up towards season 4 than its own thing.
Yeah. Or it may be even what we said before, in that all the shows all those shows set in this time period, which is just this and Ahsoka, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is there another one? But they might build to like a joint series that's got a different name kind of
and
thing.
the Book of Boba Fett.
Book of Boba Fett as
Which
well,
is
yeah.
just
Yeah. So there might be,
Mandalorian.
after Ahsoka, there might be a new series, which is all the characters kind of coming
like
together.
a team up.
Yeah, yeah.
Like an Avengers
Something
style.
like that, which would make, and then that might then lead into the film, which is like the final episode of that.
That could be fun.
That would be fun, yeah.
Um,
Like a Defenders is probably a more option.
Oh, I hope not though, because Defenders was bad.
Yeah.
I never finished, so I was rewatching all of Daredevil, and I was like, before I get to season 3, I'm gonna have to watch Defenders.
Yeah.
And I got halfway through Defenders and never picked up
I
again.
got 2 episodes in.
So
yeah.
I since haven't rewatched Daredevil season 3 because of bloody Defenders.
Yeah, I think we'll probably get to it at some point because Amy never watched season 3, which she only barely watched much of Daredevil before. I think before I got the Unmatched set, and then we went straight into to catch
season
up.
3 is Bullseye, isn't it?
Yeah,
I was like, yeah.
Very
But
good.
alas, maybe that'll be one for future
LA.
personal
Yeah.
projects. So I think that brings us to the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, you can give us 5-star review. You can make a little Frank Harris type comment like, thanks for the show.
Thanks. Frank's thanks, yeah.
Or, okay, that was good.
Just
Something like that.
thumbs up emoji.
It'll be great. And we always appreciate it. If you have specific thoughts on Project Icon, we mentioned it earlier, but we'll bring it up again. You want to tell us what you think, or even what you thought of The Mandalorian, get in contact with us.
Yeah, or via the link tree in the episode description, you can find all our social medias, so you can follow us, you can send us DMs, as some of the lovely contestants of Project Icon have done. And if you want to send us an email, you can find us at theprojectpod@gmail.com. So if you've got any suggestions for maybe a project titled film that we can cover after the finale of Project Icon, get us back into our regularly scheduled programming.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of weeks ahead, so you've got time to send us some recommendations. We can make sure we watch it in time for the episodes.
Yes.
But yeah, other than that, I think that's all.
I will hear you next week.
I'll see you on that Jack Black and Lizzo planet.
Bye.
Bye.
Jason Derulo.